This is Delhi. Please stand by for the next broadcast. This is Akashvani. In our national program of features today, we bring to you an audio feature titled Ram Janmabhoomi on a spiritual sojourn. The radio feature unfolds the layers of Ram Mandir's story, one that transcends bricks and mortar and dwells deep into the spiritual essence of India's rich heritage. It will navigate through the details of Ram Mandir's architecture, an exploration of its cultural significance, and a rewind into its historical background.
Since time immemorial, Ayodhya, a city in Uttar Pradesh, has been blessed with a syncretic culture. Its canvas of faith is much bigger than it seems, and yet, the world knows it as the Ayodhya of Sri Ram, the place where pilgrims flock to seek the solace and meet their God. The city is all decked up as the preparations are on full swing in the Ram Mandir for the consecration or the Pran Pratishta ceremony of their beloved Lord Ram. The idol that will be installed in the temple will be in the form of a 5-year-old child, dearly known as Ram Lalla. The 51-inch tall idol is said to be made up of black stone and will be placed on the ground floor of the temple. The holy city has seen its share of challenging times, yet it has managed to host devotees in droves who come here to seek the blessings of their beloved Lord Ram. After all these years of turmoil and unrest, Ayodhya will soon regain its prosperity with the construction of the much-awaited Ram Janmabhoomi. Devotees across the world are waiting with bated breath for the newly built shrine. People across the country and abroad have contributed their bit, making it truly a people's temple. Explaining the character of the upcoming Ram Mandir, Sri Nripendra Mishra, chairman of the Temple Construction Committee of the Sri Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Kshetra Trust, has this to say.
The entire country today is celebrating the fact that the temple is going to come up, which was the aspiration, dream, ambition of generations which have gone by. Now, each village was encouraged that they should bring bricks, the Ram Shila, and the only inscription on the brick was Sri Ram. And those bricks roughly were representing more than 4 lakh villages. So the first participation in a constructive manner was this great donation from the villages. They traveled, they brought it after doing necessary ceremony in different temples in their villages. And it was left to us to utilize that. We decided that the best place for this would be if these bricks find their place in the foundation. So after consulting IIT Chennai, who are one of our advisors for the construction, they approved that this could also be put in the foundation, though it is not strictly what they want, but they approve. So today, all those bricks are in the foundation.
The historic verdict of the Supreme Court, which settled the long-pending and much-debated Ram Janmabhoomi land dispute, has come as music to the ears of millions of devotees all over the world. The world has its eyes set on Ayodhya, which will shine like a bright star and will be on the map of world tourism in the years to come. Sri Nripendra Mishra shares with us phase-wise temple construction plan.
The temple construction from day one when the trust considered it, it was in three phases. The first phase was the ground floor of the temple, which is to be constructed, which would include the sanctum sanctorum, the five mandapas, and some part of lower plinth, some part of the outer boundary, which is called percotta. Phase 2 is December 2024, when the complete temple will be there with first story, second story, and the ground floor. But devotees will have the benefit of going to the temple from 23rd of January 2024, because the Lord would have been there consecrated. So all places where you can make your prayer, that will be offered to you. The first floor construction and the second floor construction will continue, but we are ensuring, that is perhaps the highest consideration, safety and security of the devotees. We will construct in a manner, provide barricades so that it doesn't disturb the devotee, his devotion to the Lord, and no way any safety is under challenge. The third phase, after the completion of the temple, is the completion of the entire complex, which will go till December 2025. The money which is going into the construction of the temple is through the donation of the people. There is no pie from government of any state or the center.
Both the union and state governments are focused on restoring the historical glory of Ayodhya as a sacred place for Hindus. Besides constructing the grand Ram Janmabhoomi as a prominent pilgrimage destination, the government also plans to revamp Ayodhya Dham and Ayodhya. Excavations by the Archaeological Survey of India (ASI), along with the documentary evidence, confirmed that the Ram Janmabhoomi site has been in continuous use as a sacred site since the 2nd millennia BCE. The most recent Hindu temple on the site dated back to the 12th century. K.K. Mohammed, former Regional Director, North Zone, Archaeological Survey of India, was part of the team of archaeologists which carried out the first excavation at the site in 1976-1977. He says, there is enough evidence to prove that a grand temple existed below the mosque, and shares with us archaeological evidences found to establish the antiquity of the Ram Janmabhoomi site.
Ram Janmabhoomi project was actually started by Professor B.B. Lal, who was the earlier Director General of Archaeological Survey of India. Before taking the excavation work, what we do generally is an exploration of the site all around it. When we went inside, we could see that 12 pillars of the mosque was temple pillars. So the question is, how do you know whether these are temple pillars or mosque pillars or the pillars of some other secular buildings? When we went inside, we could see Purna Kalasha engraved on the pillars. What is a Purna Kalasha? Purna Kalasha is one of the 8 auspicious symbols in Hinduism. Ashtamangala Chinnas, it is known as, which would be there in almost all the early temples of India. And even now, if a great sage of Hinduism is coming, you cannot welcome him with flowers. You cannot give him shawl. You have to welcome him with a Purna Kumbha or Purna Kalasha. So that was the first sign of being a temple. Then there were certain sculptures engraved on the pillars also, on the walls also, which of course was later on defaced, that could be seen. And then when it was excavated on the western side by Professor B.B. Lal, there we could get the brick bases on which the pillars were standing. And the fourth evidence were, there were a number of terracotta idols associated with the temples. This terracotta figure of men, ladies' figures, we are not supposed to get such things from a mosque area, but it goes very well with the temple area. So it was on the basis of all these 3-4 points, we had reached the conclusion that there was a temple below the mosque.
A second excavation was ordered by the Honorable Allahabad High Court. It further exposed many supporting evidences of a temple, establishing that the temple beneath the mosque was an expansive one and it was dedicated to Lord Vishnu. Let us listen to what Muhammad has to say on the second excavation led by his team.
During the second excavation under Dr. B.R. Mani, the remains of more than 50 pillars were excavated, and that too in 17 rows, which says that it was a very big temple. And then many architectural members of the Shigara of the temple. In North India, Shigara is the most important thing. So one is Amalka was excavated from below the mosque. And after the Amalka, many other architectural members of the Shigara was also excavated. 263 terracotta idols that are associated exclusively with the temples that were excavated. A pranala was excavated. What is a pranala? Every day you have to bathe that main deity, and the Abhisheka Jala goes through that one gargoyle, and that would be always Makara Pranala. Makara means crocodile. Crocodile represents river Ganga. So that was excavated. That would be exclusively again in the temple. And then an inscription of 20 lines. It is known as Vishnu Hari Shila Palak, which says that this temple is dedicated to that Mahavishnu who has killed Bali. So who has killed Bali? Of course, it is obvious that it was Lord Ram. And then it says who has killed 10-headed person. Who is that 10-headed person? That is, of course, Ravana. So these are the evidences which Archaeological Survey of India had unearthed during the second excavation.
The name Ayodhya comes from King Ayudh, who is believed to have been the first of the forefathers of Sri Ram. The Ramayana states that the city, which lies on the bank of the river Saryu, was founded by the sage Manu, who had received it from Lord Vishnu. It was ruled by the Surya dynasty of the Ikshvaku. Also known as Saket up till a certain point in history, Ayodhya came to be known by its present name eventually. Ayodhya is an equally important site for Buddhists, Jains and Sikhs. The Buddha spent time here in addition to his retreats at neighbouring Shravasti. 5 of the Jain Tirthankaras were born here, and Sikh gurus, including Guru Nanak Dev Ji, are known to have visited it to preach their spiritual message. Following the Apex Court's verdict, the Indian government had set up the Sri Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Kshetra Trust to oversee the construction of the temple. The trust constituted Foundation Expert Committee of Engineers to review the Ram Temple Foundation work. It was headed by Professor V.S. Raju, former director of IIT Delhi. Since the aim was to construct a temple with the highest quality and longevity, the committee had to take into account various geotechnical challenges. Explaining the challenges that came up while drafting a plan for laying the foundation for the temple, Professor Raju said,
"The way we do foundation design is first we'll try to understand what the ground is. So for that we do probing. We call them boreholes, and the probing will reveal what the strata conditions are. So we found that there is a 12 to 15 meter thick fill, which is a huge thickness. So to give you an idea, 12 meters means it's 4-story high. So you have to do the foundation on that. And this strata is not suitable for supporting the structure. So we have to find a solution for that. The additional challenge was that we are not supposed to use any steel in the construction, either foundation or the superstructure. There are only 2 ways you can deal with this type of a situation. Completely replace that fill with a better material. That is one option. Probably that's also the surer option, because the ambition is that this temple should last at least for 1,000 years. That is very rare. When we design structures, normal life is 50 to 100 years. The second option was using the latest technology to improve the ground from the top. That means what you do is with very heavy vibrators, you vibrate the ground. so that the fill becomes from a loose state to a dense state. And the challenge there again is the fill is not defined. Fill means, see, either we have different type of materials. We have rock to start with, which is a very firm material. Then you have gravel, small stones. Then you have sand. And then we have silt and clay. These are all reasonably well-defined materials. So we know how they behave. But fill is not defined. Fill could be anything, different types of materials. So that was the challenge. So between the two options, the concern with the first option was that this is a very deep excavation into a fill. So how the excavation slopes behave. When you excavate, you have to give a slope. Otherwise, everything will collapse. If you just try to excavate vertically into the ground, that's not acceptable. And it's also a challenge how to design the slopes, and then how long does it take for completing the excavation. And then after excavation, you have to do the foundation. And how long does that take? And then in between, we have monsoon, heavy rains in northern India. They can all collapse. So we gave both the options. Finally, option one, that is open excavation with proper slopes and all the care, that was chosen. And that was a wonderful decision. Wonderful decision in the sense that when they excavated, then they found a lot of artifacts, which were probably 1,000, 2,000 years old or more than that.
Once the foundation was secured, the construction of the temple began on August the 5th, 2020, after the Prime Minister laid down the foundation stone of the temple. The temple itself is an engineering marvel. It follows the Nagar style of architecture. The upcoming Ram temple will stand tall at 161 feet, and its 3 floors will be supported by 318 pillars featuring intricately carved idols of Hindu deities. The proposed width of the temple is 140 feet. Spread over 69 acres, the temple will have multiple areas where devotees will be able to sit and pray. Sri Chandrakant Sompura, the chief architect of the Ayodhya Ram Mandir, finds profound joy and contentment in witnessing the realization of a vision conceived almost 3 decades ago when he was given the opportunity to design the temple.
I'm associated with the temple for the last 32 years. I visited the temple site during a period when strict regulations prohibited any item from being taken inside the premises, and through my footsteps, I measured and understood the required land to build the temple. Based on my analysis, I prepared 3 design options. The most favored one was presented to revered saints during the Kumbh Mela of 1992 in Allahabad, now Prayagraj. The present design was sanctioned by the Sant Samiti. It emerged as the blueprint for the divine Ram temple, which integrated scale, proportion, and conceptualization, all aligned with the principles outlined in the Shilpa Shastra. In 2019, with the Supreme Court's verdict in favor of the land ownership for temple construction, the temple now needed a grander design, considering the present era and the increased footprint. 3 options were prepared in an expansion of the earlier design.
Explaining the design of the temple, Sri Sompura further added,
राम मंदिर वैसे उत्तर भारत में मध्य भारत में जब बनता है वैसे नागर शैली का है. नागर शैली का विकास खूब ही.
The present Ram temple, like any other temple in North Indian state like Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, is being made in Nagar style. The temple has many highlights. The Garbhagriha, or the Sanctum Sanctorum of the Ram Mandir, housing the primary deity or deities, has a unique octagonal shape, which was purposely chosen as it symbolizes forms of Vishnu. It is adorned with a shikhar, which too is octagonal. This octagonal sanctum remains a rare feature, with its presence in limited ancient temples. The temple embodies 5 mandapas each of the same size, including 160 pillars across the mandapas.
ऐसा करके 5 मंडप अलग-अलग है और पांचों मंडप एक ही साइज के हैं और सभी नागर शैली में बने हुए हैं.
Ram and Ayodhya have not only been popular for the people of India, but have also been inspirational for people across the world. The teachings of the great epic Ramayana have led people across the globe to follow the path of dharma or righteousness. Thousands of South Koreans visit Ayodhya year in, year out to pay obeisance to their ancestor. According to a popular Korean legend, Princess of Ayodhya, Ho Hang-ok, also known as Suriratna, travelled all the way to Korea 2000 years ago to tie the knot with King Kim Suro of Jeomgwan, Gaya. The royal couple is heralded as the ancestors of more than two-thirds of Koreans today. Their wedding has been documented in the ancient Korean text Samguk Yusa. The text mentions King Suro's queen as a princess of a distant kingdom called Ayutha, which people relate to the present-day Ayodhya. It is believed that King Suro and Queen Hu Hong-hok formed the celebrated Karak dynasty by uniting different kingdoms of Korea. The legend of the Queen has brought India and South Korea together. In 2018, South Korean First Lady Kim Jong-suk also paid a visit to India to strengthen the bilateral ties between India and South Korea. The First Lady also participated in the groundbreaking ceremony of a massive memorial which is being built in the memory of Queen Ho Hang-hok. Ramayana has a significant influence on the cultures of Southeast Asia, including Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Indonesia. It continues to thrive in the art, literature, theatre, dance, and architecture of Thailand. In Thailand, the Thai version of the Ramayana is called Ramakien or Ramakriti. It is popularly believed that the Thai kingdom and the city of Ayutthaya may have been named after Ayodhya. Various Indonesian and Javanese inscriptions in Sanskrit, dating from 8th to 10th century CE, frequently mention words like Ram, Sita, Bharat, Lanka, Ravan, etc. Indonesia's famous shadow puppet show, Wayang Kulit, is based on Ramayana. The affection of Indians for their Lord Ram is unparalleled. The veracity of this fact lies in the undiminished respect for the epic Ramayana and its teachings. It is not an ancient scripture, but a way of life. It teaches us about Ram Rajya, an ideal governing system, and why a ruler needs to be socialistic in his policies and actions. While some interpret Ram Rajya as a religious concept, others believe it to be a political as well as a secular concept. Professor Bindu Puri at the Department of Philosophy at Jawaharlal Nehru University explains to us the many interpretations to the concept of Ram Rajya.
It's a very ancient vision. It was articulated in the Valmiki Ramayana. It came in Ramcharitmanas of Tulsidas, which brought it right at the popular level. Ram also appears in the Yog Vasishtha Maharamayana attributed to Valmiki, of which Gandhi had read the first 2 chapters. And the whole object is to show in Ram, the hero, how moral potentialities are there in each and every individual. So in that sense, it is, of course, a human, individual, moral kind of heroism. But at the same time, it's also an ideal of a polity, the state of perfect justice. So this Ram Rajya is the ideal polity, and Ram is this person who shows you that every individual has the possibility of being morally good.
The concept of Ram Raj was popularized by Mahatma Gandhi. In 1929, he wrote in Young India, "I acknowledge no other God than the one God of truth and righteousness." Professor Puri further adds,
if you want to look at Gandhi as the one who brought up this ideal of the state. He said, why should I look towards the House of Commons in the UK? Or why should I look towards the Soviets to give me a model of what the state should be like? They made the state according to their own genius and according to the culture and history of India. We have an ideal, and that ideal is that of Ram Rajya. Ram Rajya is the ideal polity ascribed to the Satya Yuga or the Krita Yuga, the golden age, lost in the prehistory of Indians. And yet this is the genius of the Indian people, which we should bring out again to create a state. By a state, I mean a polity. Now, in common words, what would this state be? Well, Gandhiji tried to explain it. He said it would be the state where perfect justice would be easily accessible to the prince and the pauper, so that it would be a state where even a dog belonging to the animal kingdom would be assured the same respect as the human being would be assured. It would be a state where you would see equal rights across different classes in society. And it would be that kind of state where there would be no unjust inequities or inequalities.
The concept of Ram Rajya is as relevant today as it was in ancient times. In today's world, torn apart by economic imperialism, terrorism, and man-made ecological and health disasters, we need to relearn and remember the ideals that Lord Ram stood for and practice them in our daily lives. Professor Puri has this to add.
The significance of the Ram Mandir is, to connect this kind of symbol of Ram Rajya, which I said is the perfect polity, which is the kingdom of truth on earth. Now, the presence of Ram in the temple, it is to evoke that this hero signifies the moral power which is within each individual to search for the truth. That's one thing. But it also signifies the primacy, the importance of personal individual effort to arrive at religious and moral perfection within this lifetime only. You don't have to die to be like Ram. You can be alive with all your frailties, with your personal efforts. Emulate Ram as this Maryada Purushottam. This Ram Mandir standing at Ayodhya signifies love for different people, for humanity, and very importantly, for the non-human world. So this whole idea that the whole universe is to be looked at with samadrishti, that is with a vision that takes everything as absolutely equal.
Sri Ram is omnipresent. The king may have been born centuries ago, but his legend will live on till eternity. He is beyond reason and vision. He has no beginning or end. He is Narayan, the eternal divinity. As the temple opens its doors to devotees on January 22nd, 2024, it marks a new chapter in the cultural and religious tapestry of India, fostering unity and understanding among its diverse population.
In the national program of features, you just heard a feature titled Ram Janmabhoomi on a spiritual sojourn. The feature was scripted by Ranjeni A. Singh. Narration was rendered by Subhadra Ramachandran, and the program was produced by Meenakshi Mund. A presentation of the Central English Features Unit. This broadcast came to you from the Delhi station of Akashvani.